Rep the South Side whenever you pay with your White Sox debit card from Windrust Community Banks and score perks like free ATMs, no monthly fees, and a $300 opening bonus. Pay with pride every time with Windrust, Chicago's bank.
Hey everybody, it's Chuck Garfien. Welcome back to the White Sox podcast. This comes to you, as always, by Windrust, Chicago's bank. Show your team pride with a White Sox debit card. Get yours at windrust.com/Sox. Member FDIC, EHL lender. Okay, so the White Sox, we know this already. They're going to win a lot more games than last year. 15 more, 20 more. Best case scenario, 25 more at this point. But this season isn't so much about wins as much as about the future and about hope. The rookies on this team are giving the White Sox a whole lot of hope. From Colson Montgomery and 𝗵cie to the two rookie catchers, Kyle Teel and Edgar Quero. Pitchers they drafted, like Grant Taylor. Rule 5 guys in Shane Smith and Mike Vasil, who the scouting department targeted, and they have flourished here with the White Sox as rookies. I haven't even mentioned the White Sox best prospects who are still in the minor leagues: Noah Schultz, Hagen Smith, Braden Montgomery, and there are some, let's say, under-the-radar prospects making some noise in the minor leagues, which I'm going to talk about on the podcast with my guest, White Sox field reporter for CHSN, Conor Mcnite, who also has a podcast, the White Sox podcast called The Road to the Rate, covering everything and anything in the minor leagues. So I speak with Conor about the present and the future and why the rookies are giving the White Sox hope, a lot of hope. Let's go. All right, back on the podcast, it is Conor Mcnite. There are certain people on this planet who live and breathe White Sox baseball like I do. Conor is one of them. How you doing? How is this season going for you, by the way?
Quick. It's gone great, and it's gone quickly. It's wild what a decent baseball team does for you, or decent stretches of baseball, right? I mean, it's been really good, especially out of the All-Star break. It's been a lot of fun to watch a lot of these, young kids that we'll talk about today show you the reasons they were top prospects. And also, there's some warts, you're going to have that with young baseball players, but the way that they're kind of overcoming or working with or working alongside some of the issues they've got, it's been a lot of fun to see here over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I remember last year I would watch this offense especially, and I'd look on the field and I'd look at the box score and I'd be like, who's a part of this future? Like, who can I get excited about? And, there was Luis Robert Jr., but he was having a bad year, and the list kind of ended there. No offense to those guys. But this year, especially on offense, you can just see it every day. You can see what this future is in many spots offensively, and it gives me hope. Does it give you hope?
It does. And there's one thing, too. You look back to last year. There were a lot of pitchers that, came onto the scene, even at the minor league levels. It's one thing to watch some good pitching develop. That's always fun. But offense is the most fun thing about baseball, right? I mean, when you have an inning where the boys come out and put 7 straight hits together like they did the other week and just keep them things rolling. There's a reason why when a team's not hitting, the manager gets asked, hey, were you lifeless today? Were you slow out there? I didn't sense the energy. Where's the urgency? And all these questions that you get yapping away. It's because when you don't hit, things are slow. So they're hitting now. It's been a lot more fun to watch it. And even though you had some development wins on the pitching side last year, offense is fun.
It's not good TV when teams aren't hitting.
No, it is not.
No. People don't want to watch it. They don't want to go to the games. I mean, and that's the whole thing. Like when you buy a ticket for a White Sox game, you can't buy a ticket. I mean, you can, but oftentimes you're not buying a ticket for like, okay, I want to see this pitcher because you don't know if that pitcher is going to be there that day. You want to show up and watch guys who are there every day, the hitters. So from a winning standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, from a television standpoint, you need an offense. And I'll never forget it. We had Brian Bannister on the podcast, and Brian literally said that he specifically scouted and recruited Ryan Fuller to come to the White Sox, and he said, we need more hitters in our system. I mean, the director of pitching is like, we need more hitters. So here we are a year later, going back to where I was last year with this team offensively. I just feel so much better about what's going on here. And then my question for you before we get into the specifics is, Sox fans don't want to see what happened last time, which was like a flash in the pan era, like 2 years tops, 3 years maybe, and then it's gone. What gives you a belief from what you see and what talking with guys, why this will be different?
Honestly, I think it's some of the stuff, some of the behind-the-scenes infrastructure building stuff that Chris Getz and the rest of the front office has done. Think about it procedurally, right? This is a team that took Colson Montgomery, a guy who leads all of baseball in RBI since the All-Star break and has a whole bunch of home runs. They shut him down, sent him to the Complex League, and rebooted his AAA season. He is now here. They've done something similar with Hagen Smith. This is it's a front office and a development crew led by Paul Janisch and, like you mentioned, Ryan Fuller and Brian Bannister, who aren't afraid to take some aggressive steps to develop some of these prospects. And I think whether you're looking at some of the free agent spending that wasn't or perhaps wasn't allocated in the right places for the last rebuild, or some of the development, I don't know, better way to put it, losses, guys like 𝗻𝗺cie 𝗰𝗶𝗹, right? The throw-ins in a lot of these deals that just never materialized into big league. I'm not even talking about stars. I'm talking about big league producers, performers, guys who can step in for a couple of weeks and keep you afloat. That unfortunately didn't happen in the last rebuild. And now, not only do you have strength in depth, especially on the pitching side, but also kind of percolating on the hitting side, you've got a development team and a front office that seems pretty dedicated to individualized approaches and getting the most out of those prospects. And for me, that kind of depth, you look at the way the Dodgers have done this for a really long time. Every time they lose someone, Chuck, somebody else comes up and goes bananas for a couple weeks. Like James Outman kept their postseason hopes afloat for 3 weeks in June 2 years ago, and nobody's ever heard of him again. And that's okay, because for the Dodgers, that kept them alive for a long time. And that's what you need to have. You need to have strength and depth.
And you think about it, I'm glad you brought up that situation with Colson Montgomery. In the previous regime, he would just be flailing and failing likely in AAA. There'd be more and more pressure on him because the spotlight has been on him that I'm not sure he gets out of it. I mean, this could have, and they may end up just trading him and have someone else, other team get that out of him. This is a huge difference what we're talking about right now with the White Sox.
Entirely possible. And I think that dedication to the young prospects and to that development is foremost, I think, in the front office's mind, because it has to be right now. Let's not get it twisted. It has to be there right now. And two, what happens next? Can you start identifying professional players, guys who are already at the MLB level, and go, we can make some tweaks here and there, get some results out of the offense, make some moves here, and reap some benefits that other teams haven't found. That'd be great to see.
I'm not saying the White Sox are perfect. Just look at Andrew Vaughn. They tried and tried and tried. He tried and tried and tried. Didn't work. And sometimes you do need a change of scenery. And he's flourishing big time with the Brewers. But that is not what this podcast is about. This podcast is about the current crop of rookies. You mentioned Colson Montgomery. Let's get into him. Okay, so as we tape this, 8 home runs in his last 12 games, 22 RBIs since the All-Star break. I think when I take the set tonight, I'm just going to use a torpedo bat. And I think my show will be the best show I've ever done. He got that torpedo bat recommended by the coaching staff, and that put him on this path. He's hit all 8 of his home runs since he's had the torpedo bat. So from your eyes, from your information you've gathered, what's going on with Colson Montgomery?
It's a lot of things. One of the stats I was filling in for John Triffin on play-by-play the other day, and one of the things I caught when I was doing some of my research was Montgomery's swing speed. Now, I'd only been up, I think it was like 20 games at this point, when I was doing the game against the Phillies, and it was, if memory serves, 76.7 miles per hour. And in my brain,
average,
I go,
right?
average miles per hour. And I thought, my God, that's really fast. Where would that fit among the leaderboard for qualified hitters? Because obviously Colson's not a qualified hitter. So I looked it up, and it would have been 6th, right next to Aaron Judge. Swings the bat pretty quickly. And I thought, well, if you're on a leaderboard with Aaron Judge, then that means I got to call Chris Withers, our producer, and tell him this is a graphic that I think we should probably put up there on the screen, because that's really damn impressive. And I think when you look at Colson, what stands out amongst everything else is the power that he can get to. Those long levers, that athleticism, the ability to pull the baseball in the air. And sure, is it two-pull oriented? It's entirely possible. That needs some adjusting as we go. That stands out first and foremost. The other thing, to be fair, is he has not walked, not even once, as you and I are taping this. And here's hoping that there's a whole slew of walks coming your way.
You're talking about it since the All-Star break.
Since the All-Star break, yeah, since the All-Star break. And that's unfortunate. You want to see the ability to get on base by virtue of taking walks. However, when you're slugging 6-something, whatever he is, that gets you through it. So I think in that, you see one thing that sets Montgomery apart on a positive side, right? All of that raw swing speed and power. And also some things he's not doing well, which, if you look at the rest of his profile as a prospect, isn't something that he is devoid. He can take walks. He has been able to show pretty good plate discipline, or at least somewhat decent plate discipline. So you would expect that to come up a little bit. Maybe that streak of homers doesn't quite sustain itself, but it's pretty clear he's got a power bat.
It's funny that you brought up the bat speed, because literally this morning I was digging into that home run that he hit in Seattle, 9th inning. His bat speed on that home run was 86. 86, okay? The next closest in the game was Julio Rodriguez at 82. And I was trying to find out, what's the greatest bat speed in baseball this year on one swing. I couldn't figure it out, couldn't find it. But 86 is elite.
It's preposterous. And I remember when I was talking with, Mike Petriello for White Sox Weekly when I was at the old gig, right after the swing speed kind of stuff came out. And one of the things that I wanted to know was, how quickly does swing speed normalize? That is, how quickly does the noise kind of jump out of this stat and we're looking at something real, we're looking at something tangible, not just something of a small sample size or flukish, right? And he's like, no, this is one of the quickest stats to normalize in all of the StatCast tracking, bat tracking kind of stuff. Swing speed is what it is pretty quickly, which is a great thing for Colson Montgomery and the White Sox.
A stat from Soxnerd. Shout out to Soxnerd. He said on Twitter, only White Sox player, talking about Colson, he's the only White Sox player with 8 homers in his first 90 at-bats. He's hit all 8 in his last 48 at-bats. So he's on a heater. And if you want to stick it to your friends who are Cubs fans, this goes back and forth. The White Sox aren't, they're not batting 1,000 in the draft, but this is just kind of funny. The Cubs had the 21st overall pick in the 2021 draft. The White Sox had the 22nd. They were drafting right behind the Cubs. The White Sox chose Colson Montgomery. The Cubs chose pitcher Jordan Wicks. So the White Sox are winning that one. Colson already has the 6th highest WAR in Major League Baseball of that entire first round. They drafted him out of high school. So there were guys who were already
right.
College guys. They could have been here 2 years ago, and they were. And he is 8th right now.
That's awesome. And, here's all the other stuff, Chuck. I love the offense, and that's as important as anything else. But because of injuries to Miguel Vargas and now to Chase Meidroth, we're seeing Colson kind of have to shift back over to short. And these numbers take a lot longer to normalize, the defensive stuff, the zone ratings and the outs above average in 2 different categories, zone rating more so than outs above average. But they like him. They like him pretty good at third and at short, and that's a very good thing. A lot of questions about Montgomery for a long time was, can he at 6'4", 6'5", stick at shortstop? Does he have the athleticism? Does he have the quick twitch to kind of get it done there? So far, it's been positive.
Yeah, defensive run saved at short, he's +2. At third base, he's +1. And it has been a massive surprise to me and pretty much everybody. I don't want to speak for everybody, but we thought he'd come up here and just play shortstop the whole time.
Yep.
And third base, he'd eventually maybe move to third base. 11 games at third, 15 at short. And I'm getting a lot of comments about like, why are they doing this? This doesn't make sense. I've got 2 words, and I mentioned on the previous podcast, Lenyn Sosa, ladies and gentlemen. You got to get him in the lineup. Now, with Vargas hurt, they can just put him over at first, I guess. That's going to happen. But you had to move to get Sosa in. He had to play second. Meidroth had to play short. And you have to move Montgomery over to third. That was why. That is a main reason why he's playing a lot of third base. But, like you said, he's looking the part defensively on top of the offense.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And that you'll take that. A guy who's not known as like the surefire. He's not Billy Carlson when it comes to the defensive reputation. Like as soon as Billy's the first round pick of the White Sox this year, and a lot of scouts are saying he's the best defensive shortstop prospect I've ever seen, or certainly recently coming out of high school. That matters, right? The defense is always going to play. That hasn't been Colson's reputation, though it has been pretty good at short, better than a lot of people think. You like to see him holding his own for sure.
All right, a few more rookies we got to get to. Edgar Quero. Trivia question, pop quiz. All right, Paul Goldschmidt has the highest batting average in the majors against lefties. He's batting .404. Want to take a wild guess who's second?
I'm going to go with Edgar Quero.
Yes. He's batting .386 against lefties, slashing .386, .426, .511. So some power there too. So what's he going to be going forward? I mean, should he just be a specialist against lefties? I don't know, but he's looking really good behind the plate. What have you seen from Quero?
I think we'll talk about this when we talk about Kyle Teel as well. And I don't mean to, I think we should bucket them together a little bit.
Yeah.
They're catchers. They're both very young catchers. The fact that they're up at 23 and 22 with Teel and Quero respectively is really impressive. It took Cal Raleigh a while to get to the big leagues. And then once he got there, to become the hitter he became, and then to advance to whatever he's doing right now, which is just superhuman. I don't know what that was, but it's great. It takes catchers a long time to get there and marinate and be what they are. I think organizationally, if you're looking at the catcher position and going, Quero and Teel form a platoon for me, and I can keep them both off of their feet when I need to. I can slide one to the DH when I have to, and then I've got a good backup. I think this is not a bad problem to have. I think the toughest part is getting Teel at bats against lefties and getting Quero at bats against righties. That, you have to develop in that way. And also it's such an advantage to have them not do that because you've got the other guy and the other skill set. So I think that's the challenge for Will and for Walker, the manager and the bench coach here. But for both players, I think at bat wise, at the plate, I'm like, no notes. Keep doing what you're doing, right? I mean, the approach is great. The discipline is good. And especially for Quero, I really like his ability to get to some of the power lately. Definitely against lefties.
Yeah. And, at this point, they've played enough games, especially Quero, and to a certain extent, Teel, where they've faced really good pitching, really good starters, really good relievers, and Teel against righties slashing .278, .377, right? .400. The point I'm trying to make here as we go through all these guys is every single rookie has passed the test. Now, not passed the test like these are going to be bona fide major leaguers, but they're all beyond treading water up here, right? They are all succeeding so far. And as a White Sox fan, this is what you want to see. And the development doesn't normally work like that, where you bring up a whole crop of guys and they succeed. Look at Jackson Holliday. Jackson Holliday came up, was terrible, and had to go back down. And there's a few other guys who have gone through the same thing, and they're struggling. Jack Caglione. I mean, there's another one. Like, wow, that happened? But with these guys, they are, and I think it's not only their talent, not only the development that is going on here, but I think it's like props to the coaching staff for like creating this atmosphere to have them succeed, right?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, especially when it comes to the hitters, right? I mean, we spent what, the first 2-3 months asking, about this offense and whether a plate control offense that doesn't have any power is going to go anywhere, and what is this philosophy? And Marcus Timms, to his great as he kind of supported this throughout the way, he's like, listen, we're gonna get there. We got to keep this approach. He's preached this kind of thing, and I think you got to give him his flowers when you're talking about some of the youngsters that we've been talking about here and the way they've been hitting the baseball. And I think too, Chuck, I think you make a great point here with all the rookies. Maybe save Colson, and only because he hasn't had the time in the bigs, the time on task that Mydroth and Teal and Keuchel. That's a thing. We'll make that happen. That's your
Edgar Keel.
Right there. That's right. That those guys. Like, they've all had the league adjust to them and struggle, especially Mydroth, and they've all made that adjustment back and gotten themselves back to figuring out, okay, here's where I'm going yet. And I would imagine that is going to happen for Colson. It comes to all of us, all of them. It'll happen to Colson sooner rather than later. He'll have to adjust back, or maybe we did see it a little bit, and he threw himself into the torpedo bat, able to cover the inside pitch a little bit better, and that he has adjusted already. We just didn't notice because it's just been dingers going out of the ballpark.
I want to go over some of the ages here, and this is not just rookies, but gives you an idea of like where the White Sox are right now. Edgar Quero's 22, Teal's 23, Montgomery's 23, Mydroth 23, Grant Taylor 23. Shane Smith, Mike Vassell, like these lottery tickets, they're 25, they're rookies. This surprised me because I talked to Jonathan Cannon, and he seems like he's 26, 27. He's 24.
Yep.
Not a rookie, but 24. Lenyn Sosa is 25.
Wild. It's wild to me. I think Lenyn is the longest tenured White Sox in the entire organization.
Oh, yes. Whole organization. You're probably right.
No one has been in the org longer than Lenyn Sosa.
Right.
And he's 25.
Right. He's 25. I mean, myself included, I'm so tough on Lenyn Sosa just because of all the things. He's only 25 years old. So, and playing great right now. I mean, just so impressive. And I foresee a Lenyn Sosa podcast coming because it is, if he keeps sitting like this, it is due. Miguel Vargas, 25, Brooks Baldwin, 24. I mean, this is such a young team, and there's another wave of guys coming. Braden Montgomery's 22, Hagen Smith, 21, Caleb Bonamer, 19, Tanner McDougall, 22. Noah Schultz is, 21, 22?
21.
So, I mean, this, for this to work, these guys who are here have to succeed. Not everybody, but certainly a large amount. But like you said earlier, they need help from, the minor leagues. That is going to make this thing really, the difference between this whole thing succeeding and failing is going to be depth, because you can't, 2005, why did 2005 work for the White Sox? Because everything worked. They used like 6 starting pitchers the whole year. Everyone was healthy and everyone played great. That is so rare. And for this to be sustainable, they need guys up and down the system who can get to AAA and AA. And you go put them in the major leagues, and enough of them will succeed that you can keep everything afloat.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And even the 05 White Sox, you think about that team. Yeah, everything did work except for one thing, the closer spot. And the White Sox went down to AA, and God rest him, they brought up Bobby Jenks, and he did what he did in the playoffs, right? I mean, you still had to have some depth there, pitching especially. Yeah. The White Sox did, and they got it done.
All right, I want to focus on the minor leagues with you, but something that is going, I think, under the radar for a lot of people, and I've been watching it, and it's the Birmingham Barons. They've won 20 of 22 games. This is against like really good competition. AA, so much talent in AA. They're 63-40. And, it doesn't always translate. Like, are all these guys going to go to AAA in the majors and succeed? I don't know. But, this is what, I think, can be the foundation for things going forward with the players there. What do you see?
Yeah, I see a lot of grinders, a lot of baseball players, a lot of guys who know their job and kind of get that done. They've had some really good pitching over this last little bit there at AA Birmingham. And we're going to talk about 2 guys in this list of prospects that we get to a little bit that have been a big feature in this. But I'll tease this out just a little. The one thing that the Birmingham Barons haven't had, especially over the last, call it 3.5, 4 weeks, has been Tanner McDougall as the ace of their staff. Yes, he's been pitching, but like a lot of other White Sox pitching prospects, the innings are being dialed back here a little bit for McDougall. Mm-hmm. So they're, amongst others, they're going to have to really test the pitching depth, that bullpen a little bit too, and they're getting it done. It's not a ton of power on this team, but there's a lot of steals, there's a lot of good base running, there's a lot of good on-base percentage, there's some good defense. They're just, I think they could win their second title in a row. It's pretty wild.
They play winning baseball, and we'll watch the games, and it's like slap hitter, bunt.
Yes.
Slap hitter, maybe a little bit of power, bunt, stolen base. Just if you face these guys, you're like, okay, these guys, I do not want to be on the field against this team because they're going to make me crazy.
Plus, they've got Riku Nishida, and nobody knows what the heck he's doing ever, and it's amazing all at the same time. No, it
goes Nishida, and then, you know what? I don't want to say any more names because I think they're going to be on your list. So
I think we'll talk about some.
I asked Conor, I'm like, hey, Conor, come up with like a list of guys who are kind of like floating a little under the radar that people need to be watching beyond the obvious Noah Schultz, Braden Montgomery, and Hagen Smith. So what have you put together for all of us to describe who these guys are, what they are, and who they are?
Chuck, I'm so glad you asked. I put together some guys that I've been watching. On the broadcast, we do the Down on the Farm segment, and I try and bring a lot of prospect depth to things. So I've got a few honorable mentions and then a top 5 list that we'll work through here for under the radar prospects. And spoiler alert, 1 or 2 of these guys may have now begun. They're on the radar now. They have become on the radar because they've re-ranked some prospects at MLB Pipeline and all this other stuff. But I promise you, these guys are guys that we, you, me, Ozzy, John, Steve, Brooke, that we've all been talking about for months now and trying to place on everyone's radar, and that nationally they're getting there. This is a fun system. Okay, honorable mentions.
Yeah.
Christian Opper, who started out the year really well at Kannapolis, is a Wisconsin high school kid, good pitcher.
Oh, that's why you like him.
I do. I like anybody comes out of Wisconsin, I'm interested on Wisconsin. Go Badgers. But he went up to Winston-Salem not that long ago, got knocked around some, settling back in a little bit, and that's a good sign. That's what you love to see. George Wolko had a really nice month of July, second half of July, a top prospect in the system. Sox fans know George, but it's been nice to watch George a little bit. Brian Ramos had a nice July. Listen, we saw him last year. He was effervescent, a fun guy to talk to, played baseball. I think he could still play a lot of third base. Be interested in what the future holds for Brian Ramos. Nice little July. And William Bergolla has just been terrific. He has absolutely no power. He steals tons of bases. You can't get him out, especially over the last 6 weeks. It's been a lot of fun to watch him. He's not on the top 5 list, mostly because I wanted to shake some things up and talk about number 5 on the list.
Okay, hold on a second. William Bergolla, I would say he's like a left-handed Chase Meidroth.
Yes, sure, absolutely, 100%. Like grinder with a lot of defensive range, despite the fact that he's 5'4". Probably
he's not
like
5'4".
No, he's like 5'8", 5'9". But like he's a small package kind of guy. Doesn't look like he can get left to right as well as he can, which I think Chase Meidroth showed everybody as soon as he got to the big leagues. Like, oh my God, this guy's playing shortstop and really well and getting it out of there quick. Might have a little better arm than Meidroth at this point. But, one of those kind of toolsy but hit-oriented players.
This is a guy, in my opinion, who in 2 years, say, when the White Sox are like, okay, we're winning now. Chase Meidroth gets hurt, whatever. We need someone from the minor leagues. You bring him up, and he's Chase Meidroth. Or better. I mean, I don't know what he's going to be, but like that is what is happening here, what I see, right?
Well, the thing of it is, too, I think Bergolla, I'm off his player bench. I think 21 years old. It's like, there's a lot of growth here left. And I think organizationally, it seems that the idea is not hit first, but plate control and hit first, then find some power. And whether that applies to Bergolla because of the size and stature of the player that we were talking about or not, that is kind of the approach of the organization, with some notable exceptions like Wolko or Braden Montgomery that we talked about here. And that's I think we're seeing more and more teams kind of flex that way, which kind of tells you what we can do in development.
Yeah. All right. So who's next on your list?
Zach Franklin. He is a 26-year-old right-handed reliever that belongs on nobody's top 30 because relievers don't belong on top 30s. He was just promoted, like as you and I are talking, he's set to make his AAA debut probably tonight, if not tonight, then tomorrow. He was a 10th rounder in 2023. He spent 6 years in college, 5 at Western Carolina in 𝗗𝗏, North Carolina. Yeah, you know 𝗗𝗏. It's gorgeous.
Of course, been there many times.
And then 1 year at Mizzou. You know, he's a COVID player, right? So he took his COVID shirt, had a medical red shirt. He's been mid-90s. He's got, watch some tape of Zach Franklin. He's a right-hander, right? Yeah. So his little leg kick comes out. It's his left leg, and he gets out to horizontal, and then it does this little like, and I don't know if it messes with guys or what, or if he hides the ball behind it, but it just looks a little. He has not blown a save yet. He has not given up any more than 1 earned run in any single outing. He has given up 8 runs all year. So that means 8 earned runs in 35 outings, 60 strikeouts, 19 walks, 42 innings pitched for Zach Franklin, who is number 5 on this list. I think he's probably at AAA for the rest of the year and probably doesn't see the bigs, but he is 26, and it's entirely possible. You know, we'll see what happens. And
Bring him up.
Next year.
Bring him up.
We can see it. We can see it. We can absolutely see
so
it.
we were watching him, God, the baseball season, as you know, like I can't remember, was it 2 days ago or a week ago? But we were watching him, and what I said and what 𝗁cie agreed on was, he's like, he really seems to hide the ball because the hitters just aren't ready. They're not getting good swings on his pitches. So I think that's what we saw. That's what you saw. There's something going on with him. Keep your eye on him for sure, everybody.
There's some funk in there, and I love that. I love a reliever with some funk. Number 4, I've got Samuel Zavala. You may remember him as the one hitter the White Sox got back in the trade with that sent Dylan Cease to the Padres. It's not been a great year for Samuel Zavala, but he did just turn 21. He's hitting .240 on the season, which is pretty good, all things considered. He's had some fits and starts. In his last 15 games, he's hit .275 with a .406 on base, 14 strikeouts, 11 walks. He's had some steals. He's still playing mostly center field. He has been in some corners every now and again. You like to see a guy like this kind of get back on track, even if he is in high A. You'd love to see the next level come up for Samuel Zavala next season so that, maybe you've got something deeper in there. Maybe he can get to some of the power. He's another one of those plate control, plate discipline kind of guys. And if he sticks in center and can for a little bit of power, perhaps you've got something that can get back onto a top 30 list in more places than one. And it's been a nice little couple of weeks here for Samuel Zavala. You love to see it.
Yeah. He plays with a flare, right? Left-handed bat. And whenever I watch him, I'm like, he's like this close. He's right there. He's got so much to him, but he strikes out so much, and there's no power, but he's got the speed, and he can do this, and he can do that, but then he does this and does that. So that's what development is, and he's 21.
Yep.
So he's got room to grow.
You like him being back on, or if it's not the radar, it's our radar. We like him to be on our, and that's nice.
Yeah.
Number 3 might be my second favorite player on the list, because I got nothing but heart for the guy that's number 1 here. Sam Antinacci comes in at number 3, and he is, if I can think of one guy that scouts and other outlets like the boys at Future Sox, they do great work. They've been on Sam Antinacci for a long time here. This is a player that just hits, spent a year at Coastal Carolina, and as you know, Chuck, if you are or have been a Chanticleer, I'm a fan. You come out of Coastal Carolina, I'm on board. He had a little injury blip, and in 20 games after, had an .882 OPS, 10 steals. A little slump June into July. Got his swing back after the All-Star break. .304 in 6 games before getting promoted to AA. He went 0 for 3 in his first AA game with the Barons. Then hit .410 in his next 12 with 11 walks against 8 strikeouts. The Barons, like you mentioned, the Barons are 14-2 since Sam Antinacci got to Birmingham. If you go back into his collegiate and collegiate summer league stats and his pro numbers, Chuck, and add it all up, Sam Antinacci has walked 70 times and has struck out 65 times. That's going back to when he was 17 years old or 18 years old. He just keeps hitting. I have no idea if he has any power whatsoever. He's 22 years old. I don't know if he can play another spot other than second base. Maybe left field, maybe third is in his future. I don't think shortstop is. And that's why Antinacci is toward the back end of a lot of 30s. When you don't have that up the middle, I'm talking shortstop, center field, catcher, the defensive spots, you don't get the helium. But he's almost 2 years younger than the average AA player, which leads to there's some meat on the bone here. Yeah. And he fits in at number 27 on MLB Pipeline. So, yeah, I really like this guy. He is a gamer, a top of the order kind of guy. And if William Bergoya is 𝗤𝗏 light, then this is diet 𝗤𝗏. This is vanilla Coke 𝗤𝗏 or cherry Pepsi. I have no idea. We've lost the thread now at this point.
Yeah, well, it's funny because if you watch the Birmingham Barons, their lineup goes Riku Nishida, William Bergoya, Chris Antinacci.
Yep.
So it's like here we go. Pests. Pest 1, Pest 2, Pest 3. So
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Number 2 for me is Tanner McDougall. He made some top 10, 15s in some preseason rankings. I want to say Keith Law had him up there, especially with the stuff he had. He had always had big. Yeah. This is your classic. He's 6'5", 185. This is your long lever, great stuff, high velo. Good Lord, does he ever find the strike zone prior to this season? He is 22 years old and has been in the system for 4 years. So going into next season, Tanner McDougall's either got to be on the 40-man or exposed to the Rule 5 draft, like the Brewers had to make a decision with Shane Smith. Yeah. The White Sox scooped him up. And I would imagine, given the shape of the 40-man right now, that Tanner McDougall is a no-doubter for making the 40-man. Shoot, Chuck, he might pitch in the majors this year. Let's get back to some of the numbers. In 9 starts at AA, he's thrown 38 2/3 with 47 strikeouts and just 11 walks. His ground ball rate has gone up 7 points from 44% to 51%, which, if you combine strikeouts and ground balls, you're not giving up a lot. The starts are getting shorter for McDougall, like we talked about. In his last 4 outings, he's gone no more than 3 innings. So 2 things are happening here. One, they're dialing back the workload. He's at 96. I think it's like 96 1/3 or 96 2/3, 4 innings over what he threw last year. So you're going to start naturally bringing things back a little bit with McDougall. The question is that so, like we've seen before with Brian Bannister, the director of pitching for the White Sox, is that so that he can make a debut in the bullpen for the White Sox later on this year? Or is it just to taper down the innings and make sure he's healthy? I think there's no doubt, assuming health, always, that McDougall makes his MLB debut in 2026, and he will be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, he's the 7th ranked prospect on in the White Sox system. Someone to watch. Yeah, we were watching him yesterday. So he's going 3 innings. There's a guy who followed him. I don't think he's on your list, considering where you're at right now. And that's Tyler Schweitzer. 22nd ranked prospect. So he had almost an 8 ERA in AAA. He's now in AA. He hasn't given up an earned run in 24 innings. So what's going on with Tyler Schweitzer as I put you on the spot?
So Tyler had gotten some conversation about, August 6th, about a month and a half ago, as kind of in the same mold that we were just talking about McDougall. Not quite the stuff, right? Not quite the same stuff conversation, but like, hey, is this a guy that can get you an emergency start, that can fill you up 4 innings or so and kind of be that bounced up and down sort of guy in the rotation, given where things were? Maybe you need some innings. Now, those conversations, that need for innings has largely been made better by Aaron Civale pitching the way he has. Adrian Hauser, prior to his being traded, of course, obviously coming in and pitching a lot of innings for him. So I think Schweitzer's being dialed back a little bit here, some in terms of the depth chart. But from what I understand, Schweitzer's a guy that could easily make a push for maybe a Mike Vassell role coming into next season if Mike goes one way or the other in terms of reliever, starter, or maybe a specialist role, something like that. I like what I've heard. I can't say I've seen a whole bunch of Tyler Schweitzer the way I've looked into Tanner McDougall, but from what I understand, I know they like him.
Okay, so drum roll, please. Who is number one, most number one overlooked, or I should say under the radar, prospect in the Sox system? Who is it?
When I was at spring training, and shortly after I received the sunburn of my life while taping this podcast with you at Camelback Ranch, I was talking to some people, and I was just, it was one of these, that guy. So I look over there and I look down the row, and it's a minor league camp, which means all the lockers are about this big, and there's 95 guys down the hall, and you have no idea who anybody is. You've never seen them before in your life. It was Bonamer. It's the second-round pick of the White Sox out of Michigan, a high school player last season. He is not under the radar anymore. I've been talking him up quite a bit, and that has nothing to do with why he's made MLB Pipeline's top 100 just the other day. It's because he's done it himself. And when I say this like 8 times over the next 30 seconds, which I probably will, I mean it. Like, this is why. He is 19, playing A-ball and shortstop. Like, that's amazing. And I don't know if he's going to stick it short, but he's certainly shown a lot better this year. Maybe he's third base. Maybe he's second. Maybe there's an outfield shift for Bonamer. I'm not entirely sure, but he has more than handled shortstop at Kannapolis this year. He's hitting .273 with a .397 on base and slugging .435, again, while playing shortstop and A-ball at 19. 82 strikeouts, 63 walks, 23 steals. Those are good numbers, especially when you're slugging the way that he has. He had a real good slug percentage over the last July. There's an athlete in this guy, like a real athlete. Even if his swing is just, to me, it's like a little stiff. It just seems like a little stiff, but he's able to get to the fastball and pull it for power, which is tons of fun. We've seen how that's benefited guys like Miguel Vargas at the big league level. For Bonamer, the way I look at it, it's a very classic, does this guy get literally too big for shortstop? Does his increase in size over the next couple of years move him over to a corner spot? And if he does, that's fine, but how much power are you going to hit for, right? Because over at third base, the demand is going to be a little higher. Again, he is 19, playing shortstop in A-ball, so we don't get to know any of these answers for a little while here. But Bonamer is now, I mean, you probably got the top 30 in front of you, Chuck, but I think he's, 6th on the list, 5th on the list on MLB Pipeline?
I don't have it in front of me.
It's 5th. He's 5th on the list on MLB Pipeline. This is a real prospect. This is a very real and exciting prospect. And it got a little side-eye when the White Sox took him in the second round last year, because he did not perform all that well in some of the all-star and area code stuff that he went to go do. And he's really shown here over the last 4 months.
There are 2 names I'm going to add to this. And one was a guy I thought would be on your list, maybe as an honorable mention, but he's not. It's okay. Subjective. It's fine. This guy might end up being a Cy Young Award winner as far as I can tell. Okay, no, I'm joking. Shane Murphy.
Love Shane Murphy.
Okay, so a left-handed pitcher in Double-A. He's not in the Sox top 30 prospect list, and I don't know why. I'm just a sportscaster, but in 90 innings in Double-A, he's 8-3 with a 1.39 ERA, 69 strikeouts, 13 walks. When guys are in Double-A playing in a pitcher's park in Birmingham, but they also go on the road, you have to be like, 1.39, is it really that good? Is the park helping him? Whatever it might be. But this guy looks legit to me. What do you think about Shane Murphy?
Like Shane Murphy, love lefties. He's a bit more command control over velo and stuff. But if you're put in the right places and you're getting outs, that's really what I care about more than anything. I think, obviously the reason he's not on top 30s is because his velo and stuff doesn't sit where McDougall's sits, or even Hagen Smith's sits, even while he's throwing 93, 94 here over the last couple outings. Is Murphy going to be a guy who pops in off the radar a little bit like, I can't think of a real good comp for this, but your lower velo command control type of guys, right? We see the guys fill out rotations and more than fill out rotations for a long time. And if he's a dude who can give you 6 at any point, like that's Dev win, man. Like, I'm all about it.
Martin Perez, a poor man's Martin Perez.
Yes, love it. Absolutely.
Okay. And then this name is not under the radar because he's very much on people's radar, and they're so frustrated. It's so polarizing. People love him. I don't say they hate him. They're just like, well, where's the consistent production? Tim Elko.
Sure.
So Tim Elko's in AAA, and I'm assuming he'll be back. He's on what you call a rehab assignment right now. Your thoughts on Elko and his future with the White Sox?
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to watch and see what the White Sox want to do as we get to next winter, right? Because there's a spot on this infield, and whether it's at first or at third, they could probably add somebody here. And I'm thinking like of the Austin Slater, Michael A. Taylor, Mike Tauchman kind of realm, right? Where you're going, okay, this is a guy that we can add in, a veteran that might have a little pop, do something for you, maybe make a trade later. That would block Tim Elko, right? Because the guy that you're moving from one side to the other is Vargas, right? And the player X comes in and takes one spot, Vargas takes the other. I know that Elko has worked his butt off to get to where he is, and that's impressive to literally everyone. I mean, nobody gave him a real chance to make the bigs when he got drafted out of Ole Miss. I mean, it wasn't really in there. The swing and miss is real. I think when we've watched him at the bigs, we've seen that fastball kind of get challenging for him. And it's because, to me, it seems like he's waiting slider, and it's really difficult to pull that trigger on the heater when you think I'm going to get tricked by the slider over and over again. We've seen Luis Robert Jr. kind of be in that spot when he goes into funks, things like that. The gamer, total gamer, a guy that everybody can get behind. There's some serious pop, for sure. I think it's going to be difficult for Tim Elko, given the shape of the prospect depth the White Sox have right now, to get himself long-term playing time at the big league level. I am for sure rooting for him, but he's got probably the toughest putt of anybody who's kind of on the hitter side right now.
And it's very difficult for anybody to make sense of the fact that his numbers in AAA are off the charts. He's knocking on the door for the major leagues, right? I mean, he's been here, but he's like, if he can do this in AAA, why can't he do something close to that in the major leagues? And that's where, for a guy like Tim, where the gap goes from this to, something much greater, right?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. I think we've seen, 10 years ago, we used to have the quad A player, right? The 4A player, a guy who mashes AAA but just can't quite hold his own. I don't know that kind of thing exists anymore. I think you just maybe can't quite adjust with the speed that you want from level to level. We'll make a determination on Tim when he gets his long run of playing time. And that might be, when you talk about how is this going to work for him, I think finding that long run of playing time to prove one way or the other, I can stay here or you got to ship me out to somewhere else because I'm too good or whatever it is. I don't know where he's going to get that run of playing time right now.
Okay. Hey, this was great. Very informative. Good conversation, Conor McKnight. This is all about hope, belief, and seeing through the trees, seeing what's down the road. And even if that road is like, I'm on the road right now, I can see it, I feel it, and I think you do the same with the White Sox.
100%. I just finished Andor season 2 for the 19th time. Rebellions are built on hope, Chuck, and we're building a rebellion here to take down the evil empire that is the New York Yankees. At least that's as far as I've taken the metaphor right now.
I love it. Let's make this about rebellion.
Anytime.
I love it. White Sox rebellion, not the rebuild, rebellion.
Love it.
Done. All right.
Branding. That's marketing.
That
Brooks Boyer, write it down.
I'm going to start calling it. It's the White Sox rebellion. And it's no rebuild.
Absolutely not.
All right. Conor McKnight here on the White Sox podcast. Thank you, everyone, for listening, for watching. 𝗁𝗏 Harrelson, take it away.
All right, Chuck. This edition of the White Sox podcast is over.